Welcome to Questions from the Closet. I'm Ben Shalati.
And I'm Charlie Bird.
Each episode we discuss a question that we commonly get asked as LGBTQ Latter-day Saints.
We're not trying to answer this question or come to a consensus, but simply sharing our perspectives. Today's question is, how do I overcome shame about my orientation?
Charlie and I are not terribly diverse, and we share many opinions and life experiences.
For example, we both have brothers that are hotter than we are.
However, there are some pretty big differences. For example, Charlie came out to his brother while hiking Kilimanjaro, and I came out to one of my brothers while sitting in his living room.
On this podcast, we want to provide you with a variety of voices and perspectives, so today we're joined by Stacey.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Welcome. We're excited to have you. Tell us a little about yourself.
Ooh, where do I begin? It was a dark and stormy night. No, I'm from Dallas, Texas.
Cool.
I grew up in Texas. Came to BYU when I graduated high school, like most people.
What year did you graduate?
I graduated I graduated in 2014, winter of 2014.
Oh, cool. So you're 24?
No, I went to school in 2006, so I'm 31.
He graduated from BYU in 2000.
Oh, I thought you were talking about high school.
Oh, no. Oh, I was like, no. And I was like, you did the math so fast. And
well, it's a good thing they
old.
can't see you. They can only hear your voice.
Yeah, and you couldn't see me blush even if you could see me. That's the benefits of having nice chocolate skin. But I came to BYU and I studied public relations, graduated BYU in 2014.
Cool.
And then I immediately started working full-time for BYU TV. I worked on a show called Studio C, which some people in this community have heard. And
Hasn't Conan O'Brien heard of it?
Conan O'Brien, I heard that he still tells people about it, and I am flattered.
Weren't you on his show?
I was on Conan O'Brien's show with Conan O'Brien.
That's amazing.
It wasn't even not with him. It was with him.
Wow.
It was one of our moments of just, it was very it made us feel like we were doing all right, you know?
Yeah, that's cool.
So we actually left Studio C not too long ago, September of 2018. And then I came out December of 2018 publicly.
What was that like? Especially coming from so you waited till after you graduated to come out publicly.
I waited till after I graduated.
Me too. So I'm wondering if we had similar experiences.
It was wild.
It's crazy, huh?
It's actually one of those things where it's people asked if I didn't come out earlier because of BYU, and not really. I just needed time to figure out my stuff.
Right.
And I'm a very headstrong person, so once I know what I'm doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just took me a while to get there. So after talking to various bishops and praying about it, and I took it to the temple, and I did I talked to stake president.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to come out and I'm going to start dating. And I talked to everyone at work. I was like, oh my gosh, so this could really hurt our company because we create clean content, right? And we know we have a lot of very conservative consumers of our content. Mm-hmm. And it's, what's the stereotype is that conservatives aren't very supportive of LGBTQ people.
Right.
And so I was like, hey guys, is this a concern for anyone? And my friends were all incredibly supportive. They were like, if people feel like your sexual orientation isn't family friendly, that's their problem.
Yeah.
And we support you 100%. So I came out publicly and I was ready for the worst. I was ready for to lose everything and the world to come at me. And yeah, there were some haters, but it was overwhelmingly very positive.
Yeah, that's cool. I had a similar experience because, I was Cosmo and I had spent years building this brand and really making Cosmo cool. And he's this masculine, energetic, I don't know. And I was so worried. Yeah, cougar. And I was so worried that coming out would kind
of hurt that image.
Yeah. Because I worked so hard working on his image and I care about it. And I didn't want it to be directly associated with me or make it look bad. But yeah, all my my teammates, my coach, people, athletics acted the same way. They're like, you know what? Awesome. If you feel like there's something you need to do, go for it.
You talk to everyone about it?
Yeah.
It's kind of freaky.
Yeah.
It's you feel like you have a lot on the line,
Yeah.
There were rumors when I was in the PR program. There were rumors in the PR school that I was Cosmo.
Steal my thunder.
I couldn't even fit that costume. I'm 5'6". It'd be really slack arms and
Well, okay, don't take this the wrong way, but so whoever's Cosmo has to wear eye black because eyes look really creepy because you can see through the eyes.
So you're saying you do blackface as Cosmo? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Not quite, but we wear eye
makeup.
Makeup around our eyes just so it matches.
The Cosmo's
the dark, whatever it is. And so that was No offense, but that was like one of our outs because people would talk about Cosmo and be like, oh, he's one of the black guys on campus.
like,
and we're like,
no.
awesome. Like, we're safe.
Oh,
They're
gotcha.
not going to find us.
That's probably why.
Yeah, because the eye black.
Because I was like, I don't understand why people thought I was Cosmo. They were like, people would be like, where were you the other night? At the game, I see. And I was like, no. I was at home eating
funny.
popcorn.
Well, and then I would always walk around looking like Green Day or someone because I couldn't get it off and it looked like I was wearing guy liner, which secretly I kind of loved. I'm like, whoa, wow. My pupils are popping.
The fabulous in you was like, this I know
good.
for my job, I often, I get to dress up all the time for my job.
Yeah.
And so it's like really fun to be like, ooh, you know. But anyways.
Yeah, so I haven't dressed up for a job, and when I came out, no one had heard of me. So
All right. That's
not a big deal.
That's one of our many differences. Ben.
Actually, I had a friend recommend me when I came out. They were like, "Hey, you should look up Ben Shalati and like his story and like talk to him or something."
Aw.
I don't know if you know my friend. Do you know?
Are you kidding me? I dated his roommate.
Shut up. Who's her roommate?
Wait, I'm gonna keep this in, but I'm gonna bleep out the names. This is funny.
Wait, you did?
Yeah.
She loves you.
Oh, well, I love her. She's amazing.
I love her. She's a great human being.
Yes, of course.
That's so funny.
I
She
actually
left that
wrote
part
my my master's thesis about her and her sister and how their accents when they speak Spanish.
Oh,
Yeah.
you speak Spanish?
I do.
Si,
I mean,
senor.
see,
They're both a delight.
they're amazing.
Just charms. I love that.
Yes, I wrote my thesis about them.
Oh, I want to talk more about it, but I don't.
Yo,
wanna
we're gonna be
waste your
talking all day.
podcast time.
Let's talk
Yeah.
about shame.
I was like, I don't want to waste your podcast.
Let's
time.
take it down quite a few notches and talk about internalized shame.
Surprise! This is a really fun topic.
Yeah. What you got for us today?
Internalized shame. Wow, that's a tough one because it can be really. It's not like super tangible, but it's so visceral. You know what I mean? We know shame is bad. I think everyone's pretty much on this same page. We're like, guilt can be a motivator to be better. Shame is a motivator that like motivates you to distance yourself from people, like withdraw.
Yeah.
You guys could probably maybe define that a little bit better. But shame is bad. I think it. Go ahead, Ben. You look like you have.
Well, as Brene Brown would say, is shame is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad.
And what a relevant topic for what we're talking about. Because I know that growing up, it was really hard for me to like, you just feel broken, you know? You feel broken. You feel like disgusting. You feel like tainted or whatever. I remember thinking of my sexuality being like, it's the thorn in my side. And I remember there was a point when I was like, this thorn will never be pulled out. It'll just be here. And what a pain that is. You know?
Where do you think
know.
those feelings came from?
Oh man, there's probably so many factors. I grew up in Texas, Southern, very like Southern black culture,
Right.
Very like macho and stuff. Like, in fact, when I came to BYU, I was like, I did think, and I don't know if this is rude or whatever. I thought everyone was gay. I'm gonna be honest, because I was like, just the way people acted. I was like,
They dress kind of weird too in Provo.
They're like, let's watch Disney movies.
well, I was
and
like,
sing
in
songs
Texas,
together.
you would have got pegged a long time ago. And you know, we get really good at like pretending and hiding.
Yeah.
So we don't let on. But I came to Provo and I felt like I could like let go a little bit of that like macho thing I was trying to be.
Yeah.
But anyways, that comes from like, you know, how I grew up, the culture, and then the church. You know what I mean? It's a little bit deeper than just like it's bad to be gay. It's more like your eternal salvation is at stake. You know what I mean? It's a little more like perspective's a little more than like it sucks now.
So you were worried that your orientation was something that would jeopardize your eternity.
Oh man, my orientation, I knew it was going to jeopardize my chances here for work, for friends, for my family loving me or like accepting me or my parents being proud of me. And then I knew that like God hated me. I knew he like hated that. You know what I mean? It took me a really long time to get to the point where I was like, God hates that, not me. And then to get to the point where it's like, oh, maybe he doesn't hate that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When I was growing up, I had this reoccurring, I would say dream, but it was more of a daydream. It was more my thoughts running wild. And it was always Judgment Day, and I was standing there like surrounded by the generations of my whole family, and there was this big screen, and everyone like gasps when they see like the world from my point of view and see that I'm attracted to men, and everyone just like yelling at me, and they're so disappointed, and God hammers, and there's a pit that opens, and I just like fall into hell and watch my family be separated from me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that is intense.
Yeah, it was dramatic, and like that was my view of like the afterlife, and like I don't know. Now I'm just kind of sad thinking about that because I'm just crushed that like the little 15-year-old me was so worried that just my very existence was going to distance me from everybody and everything that I loved.
Oh yeah, I didn't have anything quite that significant.
I'm kind of dramatic too.
Yeah, what did you envision?
Yeah, but when I was 23 and getting to a point where I had to come out because I just couldn't deal with what was going on my own anymore. I remember going to see a movie with some friends and I just could not stop thinking about being gay and how much I just wanted to go away. And we saw Spider-Man 3, which is not a great movie, but it was a wonderful escape from reality for me. And before the movie started, one of my friends could tell that something was going on with me. She said, "Ben, are you okay? Like, what's going on?" And in my head, I thought, if you knew, you would hate me. Like, I really felt like if people knew about my orientation, they would hate me.
So, Stacey, how did you overcome those feelings? How did you...
What do you mean, how did I? How am I
How are you
to?
still? No, it's still
I know
kind of baked into
us.
us.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a thing is like, it's not just like, and now I'm shameless. But I do think, and I'm going to be honest, guys, like, I do think in some ways coming out has been a more pleasant journey for me. And I think it's because it's not my first rodeo as a minority, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Like, there's so many internalized messages. There's so many messages we internalize that the world tells us about sexuality, about ourselves, about what it means to be a man, and don't be a pansy. And like, we're constantly filtering these messages out, right? Mm-hmm. And changing our behavior accordingly or how we treat ourselves or look at ourselves. But growing up black, so for all the viewers out there who can't tell, I am black and proud. Nice little short chocolate man. All right. So, so like being black in this country is not necessarily like an easy thing all the time. Mm-hmm. And so my parents knew that growing up, we needed to believe something about ourselves that the world wasn't going to tell us. Mm-hmm. And so they tried so hard to infuse messages of our worth and our value. And just like, those kind of things that are like, you are worth something, you are important, you have a voice that means something. And I don't know, just like growing up from that moment, I was like being tested all the time. I remember having to like really, really, really believe that, or I would have been like crushed. When I first came to BYU, someone was like, hey, like a friend of mine, quotations, and because I say that because they weren't trying to be rude about it. They were just like, hey, you should know you're only here because you're black. Like, you can't, like, that's the reason why you're here. Ugh. You know what I mean? It's like stuff like that. And like, for someone who is like, I didn't really know too much about affirmative action. You know what I mean? It's like for someone learning these things, I was like constantly on the verge of like second guessing who I am or what my value was or if I had value, that kind of thing. Yeah. But you just have to build yourself up because the difference about being gay and being black is people can look at me and tell I'm black, Yeah. So it's like, there was no chance of hiding. Anyways, jump to nowadays coming out. The essential, I kind of just talked about this. Guys, I'm obsessed with plants. You should know that. I love house plants.
What kinds of plants? Like succulents?
I'm not a huge fan of succulents, okay, but I'll tolerate them.
What about a philodendron?
Ooh, yes.
I just got
one. How about a nice little barrel cactus?
A what?
A barrel cactus?
What'd you call him? Barrel cactus? Is that just a traditional like?
Yeah.
I'm into it. Okay. I just like really like house plants. And I'm going to go on a little tangent, but it has a point. Please. I think there is, so Venus flytraps, you guys heard of it?
Yeah,
it's a carnivorous plant. It's the coolest plant. Everyone loves it. It's really flashy. It's really neat. It eats insects. Like, come on, that's awesome, right? And then there's another plant that you probably haven't heard of called the Zebzi plant.
I have not heard of that.
Yeah.
I know it.
You heard of it. It's not that flashy and it's not that cool looking and stuff. And people don't necessarily like, it's not like the first plant people are like, ooh. But the thing about the Venus flytrap is that the Venus flytrap needs to eat like insects because it's like soil is so poor and its root system isn't like amazing. Like the things you don't see aren't necessarily like crazy fortified, so it needs to get it from external places. Mm-hmm. It needs nutrition from external places. And that plant is finicky. You put it in a different source of light, it's weak. You feed it a different type of water and it's like withering. It's a finicky plant, right? Mm-hmm. The Zebzi plant is a champ. You could put that thing in a dark corner and it would thrive. It doesn't die. It's called the plant of steel. And the trick is that the Zebzi plant has incredibly fortified roots that store water and nutrients like a boss. The Zebzi plant gets its strength from internal places, and the Venus flytrap needs all this external help. And I feel the same way about us as people, where it's like, if you get your value from external places, that will control you. And a flip of a switch, something slightly different, will just it'll make you crumble. You won't have a foundation. You need to have your sense of worth and value. What you believe about yourself has to come from like an internal place. You have to believe it first and foremost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because things change around you. Someone tells me I'm buck ugly, and I'm like, nah. I already know I'm a beautiful chocolate man.
So what are some of the external sources that gave you feelings of shame?
Yeah. So, for example, I think honestly, like family growing up, and not even purposefully. It's not like our parents were like, "I'm gonna make you feel good about being black, but bad about being gay." They didn't know. But you get those you hear like your dad talk about what it means to be a man, and like, or you hear people saying, "Stop being a pansy," or "Don't be a little like, why are you acting like a girl?" You know what I mean? I hate to bring attention to that because it's such a rude thing to say, but family or friends, you know what I mean? Like little offhanded things people say, those things like stick.
Yeah.
I get so many messages from kids that are like, I want to come out to my dad who's a bishop or something, but he one time sneered while watching like when Will and Grace came on, and I can never talk to him. It's like those little things like stick.
Like microaggressions.
Yes. And then moving on, the church has, I think, made it a really, really tough place for me, especially just being like, how we talk about LGBTQ people, especially back in the day when I was growing up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I often say that most of the times I've heard about gay people talked about churches in the sense that it's bad and awful and
like perverts or like, you know.
And most of the times I've heard gay people talked about in a nice way at church have been when I have said it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some of a lot of those external pressures that are just really tearing you down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And where's this internal sense of self-worth? Like, where's that come from?
I'm going to be honest. The way I feel about myself, and I think friends can help in that sense, but the way I feel about myself is like not from like feedback I've gotten from people. It comes from like a very internal place, like almost something like spiritual and sacred. Yeah. Like I have a very firm belief that like the more you strive to stay close to the Lord, the more he puts you where he wants you and makes you what he wants you to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just like transforms you.
I was speaking to a youth group a couple weeks ago, and after I finished, I was taking questions, and one of the girls raised her hand, and she says, "You were talking about praying and asking God for guidance, like coming out." And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And she started crying, and she says, "Why would I talk to someone who hates me?" And I broke. It was so hard, and part of the reason I was breaking is because I remembered being exactly her age and feeling exactly the same thing. And I didn't realize this at the time, but I was ashamed of who I was. I remember I would start my prayers and apologize for my existence. I'd be like, "Heavenly Father, I'm so sorry that I am me." I was so ashamed to be me. And I was just convinced that God was ashamed of me.
Could you imagine a parent hearing their child feel that way about them? That's got to be like heartbreaking.
Right? Yeah, and my perceptions of who God was weren't based on my actual relationship with God. They were based on what other people had said about what it means to be gay.
Yeah, like what you thought.
Yeah, and when I finally made that shift to, I'm not broken, I'm not unsalvageable. God didn't make me by mistake or purposefully making me to as like a rude joke, you know,
like an accident.
Yeah,
like he spilled the like sexuality liquid and like whoops, no,
right.
It doesn't happen like that.
And when I realized that, and I realized that he'd been there the whole time, and who my Savior was and who my heavenly parents are is so much different than who I expected them. That's when I was able to start climbing out of my shame and sharing the burden with other people and coming out and instead of like creeping away into the dark closet and like, I mean, there's a reason that's the term we use. It's dark. It's horrible in there. Once I started actually creating a relationship with God, like you were saying, that's when I was able to find my identity and find my self-worth. I have more to say. Can I just stay on my soapbox for a little bit?
Yeah, keep going.
On that box of soap and preach.
Well, it's just so interesting because at one point I was in college. I was more popular than ever. I had a ton of cool friends. I was Cosmo. I loved my life. I had a 4.0 and I had an athletic scholarship. I had an academic scholarship. I was killing it.
The 4.0 is like the most impressive part of that. I'm like blown away.
Because I could be Cosmo, but I couldn't get a 4.0.
Never. I could hack in that suit. 4.0.
Well, thanks. Well, and as amazing as all of that was, I thought I was the worst. I didn't see that side of me. I only saw this side of me that was freaking out and scared and anxious and hated myself.
Wondering when it was all going to crumble.
Right. And I was so blinded by my shame of just not wanting to be myself. So all of those other things that I was just like really excelling at weren't even, I couldn't even recognize that and see my worth. And I don't know.
It's really interesting. I feel like I've had a bit of a different experience than both of you, because I was never like mad at God, never felt like I was a mistake. It was always just like a trial and a phase I was going through.
Oh, interesting.
And so I knew, like, there was no doubt in my mind in the future I just had to do enough things and I would be straight. So it was.
I did believe that too.
So
I was a great missionary. Ooh, I was like, I'm gonna marry a woman when I get back.
Yes, exactly. And so I just kind of got to a point where I'm just gonna keep doing the best things I can, all the good things, and then I'll be fixed. So it wasn't like I was ever mad at God or like.
But it stemmed from the same idea that there was something to be fixed. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's cool though that you were like, I'm not mad at you, God, but I realized that this test is tough, but I'm gonna pass it, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And like, well, when is this gonna get fixed? I thought if anyone ever knew, then they would hate me, and I just had to keep it to myself until I got it taken care of. And interestingly, like shortly after I came out to my parents, they encouraged me to go to therapy to fix my orientation, and I did, and it didn't work. And my dad has apologized so many times for that.
Can I pry?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of therapy was it? Like, you don't have to go into that if it's like super. You could. Don't have to go into this, but I'm just like curious to know.
Conversion-based therapy?
It's essentially like conversion therapy, right? What did they do?
They basically told me
Dainty ankles.
They basically told me that
body parts in your hair.
wasn't that bad, but they basically told me that it was a learned, like being attracted to men was a learned behavior, and I just had to learn to be attracted to women. And I only went to 2 sessions because it made me so uncomfortable, and I had already read a bunch of books about how people become gay and how to fix it. That as he was talking, I was like, oh, this is what he's trying to do, and I had already come to a conclusion that it didn't work. So it's basically like classical conditioning.
I also want to be like, you don't think we've tried all those things? You know what I mean? I did some weird things to fix my being gay. I'm not going to go into right now.
But that's one of the nice, those people who kind of reinforce my shame. Like my dad never meant to, but realizing what that had done, he has apologized a number of times. And a lot of people have been so kind and apologized for a lot of things that they didn't mean. They were just trying to be helpful and kind.
Oh, gosh, dang.
Being ashamed of myself for being gay also affected the way I treated other people, especially other gay people. So I remember I was friends with a kid in high school, and he came out senior year, and I completely cut him off and would make fun of him and just like try to be on like the macho, masculine, homophobic side of that, like on purpose, because I was so, I kind of like you were saying, you don't want anybody like onto you. But also I figured if I'd push so much hatred towards LGBTQ people, then that would somehow, I don't know. It's a flawed mentality, but that's what I was doing,
Just the idea of like being something you're so ashamed of when you have it manifest in front of you, I bet you that like vitriol and that anger can like go towards that.
Exactly.
It's like the idea of like hating behavior about yourself and then hating people that exhibit that type of behavior.
Yeah.
I mean, what do we call that? Internalized homophobia?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, I have fought so hard to be something I am not that I like hate that aspect. And breaking down those walls is not easy.
Yeah.
It's not. And I'm still trying to figure it out. But I do have some theories
Yes,
work for my own life. Please consult a professional. I don't know. It's not that bad. But I have a theory that so embracing yourself, it's absolutely necessary. And embracing yourself, I define it as the internalized process of learning who you are, and on like learning about like what do you like, learning preferences and like what you need to be healthy. It's like learning if you're an introvert or extrovert, just like learning about yourself and like your preferences, right? Embracing yourself. And then I think authenticity is the outward expression of that internal process. So you learn about yourself, and then to be congruent, you act that way. You know what I mean? Like if you don't like carrots and you're eating carrots to impress someone else, you're going to experience an incongruity. You're going to experience some dissonance. And I don't think we want that. I think we crave being like in line with our inner and outside expression, our, embracing ourselves and being authentic. And so I think for me, it's been really helpful as I've tried to like learn more about myself, like finally get to a place where I'm like, I don't have to be afraid of these parts of myself or hate them. Mm-hmm. And then as I try to honor that by living in a way that reflects that, I think that's been really helpful for me.
Yeah. And sometimes you get positive. A lot of times I've gotten positive reinforcement. Like people accept me as I am, like without hiding anything. Mm-hmm. And then that helps me be more myself and feel more comfortable.
Like you like baking, but you don't bake because you feel like it might out you as being gay or might make you look more feminine. Exactly. It's like, nah, playa.
I don't like baking.
You will be happy baking unless you're Ben.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, don't edit yourself because of any external pressures. Don't be the Venus flytrap, man.
This is really interesting because I wonder, we want to be like have this internal sense of self-worth and not something that's external. And I'm wondering like how much of my sense of like internal self-worth was facilitated by people on the outside seeing me as the way I needed to be seen. Because I think one of the things that's helped me most with my shame is coming out to people and then them responding well. Like these awful ideas I had about how people were going to respond never came true in my case. And I wonder how I would be different with my sense of internal self-worth if that hadn't happened.
Yeah. And the easiest people for me to come out to were the people that I was already closest to my true self. Mm-hmm. Like my little sister was so easy to come out to because I never really felt the pressure to hide me.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I do think that could be super helpful. Like, I mean, for sure, there's things that I feel about myself that maybe I'm like a little insecure about, but my friends are like very validating in some ways. And so that's like really helpful. My only fear is when it becomes your means of gauging, you know what I mean? Your worth. Mm-hmm. It's like, ooh, that stuff can switch. But I think you're right. There are a lot of things that I feel about myself that comes from feedback and external means. So it's really cool.
Before we started, you were talking about community and how you like building community. I
love building community. I'm gonna build a community one day.
Well, I'm just happy that there is more like this is a shared experience for all of us.
Yeah.
Shame, internalized homophobia, really having to work to be okay with who we are just because we are ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just thinking about anybody out there listening that might kind of be, I used to listen to things and be like, oh my gosh, me too. Oh, me too.
Listening in secret.
Yeah. And that's so nice. And I just hope everyone knows that these feelings aren't uncommon. You're not alone. It's like a Dear Evan Hansen. Like you're not alone. Now we're all going to start crying.
Did you just watch that?
I've seen it a lot.
Oh, you're in New York. So.
Yeah. I've watched it many times.
Oh man. And I think you're like spot on. It's like, you're not alone in this. And I come from I very much believe in God, and I know everyone doesn't, and that's totally fine. And I'm so sorry if this feels like really pushy, but at the end of the day, you just know that at least for me, it's so helpful to know that someone knows exactly what I've gone through, and I can't hide it from them if I wanted to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they just know exactly what I've gone through, and then open that up a little bit more. And there are people that are going through similar experiences I'm going through. Like you just said, right now we know what it's like, and maybe we didn't live the exact same lives. We can relate.
Yeah, there's echoes for sure.
You guys out there, listen, we get it. We do.
Yeah. Any other things you guys did to help you work through these feelings of shame, like things that we could encourage people to do? Not encourage.
I sought a lot of resources. When I finally got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore, and I realized that it was affecting my ability to connect with people, and I couldn't sleep at night, and all of these things were just piled on me. I reached out and I found a therapist, and I started reading blogs. Ben has a great blog.
You didn't read mine though.
Did you not?
No.
It's fine.
And doing and obviously at my own pace what I was comfortable with, but kind of reaching out and looking at different perspectives and trying to build community, I guess. Yeah.
That's I really very much second that. It's really great that there was things to find about people in similar places, and there wasn't a ton. I always tell people this. I'm like, there's no manual written for us, be it in the church, and you're like, where's my Strength of the Youth pamphlet?
Yeah.
Because the rules are different. Let me tell you. But yeah, I read a lot of stuff. I'd be secretly looking at Mormons and gays.
Yeah. It came out when I was on my mission, and it was kind of like a big ooh, Mormon and gay, all the elders, And it was one of the approved websites. And on P-Day, I would just should I do it? It took me so many P days to actually go to the page, and
terrifying.
I was like, had it hidden in a tab, and I was like reading, and then I'm like, oh, I'm just emailing my mom over here.
Let's see in shady behavior, trying to figure out what you're up to.
Exactly.
It's nothing.
One of the things I started to do was I learned to filter myself less when it came to my orientation.
Cool.
Oh. So, for example, there's a show, like many shows, there was a woman who was in a love triangle with two men, and people would talk about, oh, does she are you more team so-and-so or team so-and-so? I'm not talking about Twilight. I'm talking about Jane the Virgin. Oh. and I
wish it was Twilight.
And I would watch it with my friends, and I would share my opinions, and like that was really nice to be like, well, I think this person is attractive or a better fit, and we were just able to have this conversation about who I was attracted to and which personality I preferred, and that really helped to get rid of a lot of my feelings of shame.
You know what? So when I came out to my family, I was like, I'll be danged if this becomes Uncle Stacy's secret. I was like, I will not have my sexuality be taboo in family conversations. So I brought it up a lot.
That is good.
I was like, well, the goal, and I know it was so annoying, but the goal was to normalize it for my family. Mm-hmm. I wanted them to get to the point where they could just like toss it out and feel comfortable about it. I did a Q&A with my family when I came out, because it came out in December, cool. And then I went home for Christmas. I purposely came out before so I could like face them all. Like all my old ward family. But I did a Q&A, and I was like, any question goes. And I got some weird questions, y'all. But it was really cool.
But that's cool because you can get out of the way. And
it was like we normalized it. And every time I'm on the phone with my parents now, I'm like, yo, dating a guy or not dating a guy if you know someone. But it's like those elements of like not editing yourself. I was like, where was I going with that?
Yeah. And I think just like normalizing it helps to reduce shame so much.
Yeah. Like talking about it, having a safe place to talk about it. I teach a spin class, and this is like barely, I feel like I'm really confident with who I am. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's one of those things where I look back and I'm like, oh, there are some stereotypes that I didn't even realize. Like houseplants. I love them.
Yeah. Well, I decorate cakes. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's join powers and do cake and spin.
I eat cakes, and I've been to a spin class.
Is that gay? Because I'm sure most gay people love eating cakes too. Straight people write in and tell us. But I teach a indoor spin class, a couple, and one of the times I teach, a lot of moms come to, and I always like share experiences because I want to be like, I'm like motivating, we have a good time, whatever. But I do not talk about my sexuality because I'm so like, I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable and but like one day I kind of like started talking about something, and then I like edited it, and I know someone like responded, and the next spin class, all these moms showed up with rainbow socks to show support. They were like, we love you as you are. And
That's beautiful.
It got me. And it was like a good reminder where it's like, I don't need to be editing myself. I don't need to be like jumping through these hoops. It was really beautiful. It like barely happened. I like Instagrammed about it.
Cute.
I was like, they're too great.
Yeah. It's really interesting because all of us want to have this internal locus of control, like this internal sense of self-worth. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think all of us are affected by what happens on the outside.
Yeah.
People say anything on the outside. And so someone who knows an LGBTQ person can really help them by being validating and wearing rainbow socks to spin class.
Dude, being an ally can sometimes take so little. Just letting yourself be known as a safe place. I had a friend once. One of my best friends was just like, we were talking once, and he was like, yeah, I knew this gay guy, and he was really cool. And I was like, that's like all it took.
Yeah, that's it.
I was like, oh my gosh, what a nice person.
It's like a flag, like this person's safe.
Yeah,
I can be
exactly.
me and not have to worry about repercussions or.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's like the tough thing is like external means do affect us so much that's what makes it so hard to like build that like internal resistance. It's really tough, and I'm still working on it. You know.
Yeah.
I will say that like the shame, there were habits I had before I came out that like I don't have anymore, like really bad, like habits that I felt were really negative. And this is not the same for everyone, but things that I would like because of the shame, like I overate like crazy. Food was like one of my go-tos.
Yeah.
And like after coming out, I'm not saying this is the case for everyone. I don't do that. I don't turn to food in my times of trouble anymore. It's like, it's like I treated.
Well, there's less of a coping mechanism because there's not as much to cope with.
It's not as much to cope with. And
so it's not about what you were eating. It was about what was eating you.
Oh, man.
Put that on a t-shirt.
He's a therapist.
Market
you heard it here first, folks.
I still love food, though. Just want to throw that out there. Yeah. So don't walk up to me in a restaurant if you see me going to town on some crab legs.
Like, Stacey, where is your shame?
I thought you said. It's like, let me.
He really is shameless.
He really is shameless. Listen here, buckaroonies and allies of the buckaroonies. It's like so important for me to like express to people how valuable they are, how important they are. And I think really believing that, and like, I feel like embracing yourself and being authentic to that, and like believing your worth is like a great way to do that. How? Man, there's so many different ways, and I wish you the best. I've shared some that have helped me. But you must know, we are the LGBTQ community. There are a lot of us out there, but we're kind of rare. We're not the majority. Mm-hmm. And rare things are precious and like valuable, and like you are so important, and your perspectives are just like so necessary, and what you bring to the table is like of immense value, and I cannot express that enough. I believe it wholeheartedly, and I think walking in that direction of trying to understand why that's a thing can really help you, value yourself a little bit more.
Yeah. What you said reminded me of something someone told me once, that we think that as humans, we think that things are different or beautiful. Like people go to the Grand Canyon because it's different and it's beautiful. And if we're, just a small percentage of the population, that's something that makes us beautiful.
It's beautiful. You're rare. Yeah. You're precious. You're expensive. I'm going to keep going.
That's great.
But I believe it.
Awesome. Well, Stacey, thank you so much for joining us today. And everyone else, thank you for joining us today. Please remember that we do not represent the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or Brigham Young University. We're not trying to be prescriptive or tell anyone what to think or do.
Today you heard 3 perspectives, and there are many, many more. We encourage you to listen to other voices and hear a wide variety of experiences. If you would like to submit a question or share a comment about today's episode, you can email us at questionsfromthecloset@gmail.com. Until next time.